Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. So many people are talking to me about horses these days. And I even like horse-like things. They're like, you like those mini ponies? Those like the little tiny ones? It's like, no, they're horses. They're still horses. You know what I mean? But somebody brought up an interesting point. They're like, what about like large dogs like Marmaduke? And we all love dogs. You know, I love dogs. You love dogs. But let's be honest. A dog like Marmaduke is nothing but a problem. It's horse-like chaos that you let into your home. You have that picture? We're gonna the black and white one. It's not a racial thing. But if you have a dog the size of a horse, I think that's technically a horse, and you should fear that dog the same way, or in the same way you fear horses. And if you have a very large breed dog, like EK, your dog is large, and he thinks he's a puppy, and like he'll knock you down if he's trying to, especially if like going outside. He'll like, oh, outside, get out of the way, and he could knock you down. So absolutely, you should fear Marmaduke the way that you fear horses. However, it's kind of easier to love a dog than a horse because they're dogs. They're very lovable, even when they're giant and dangerous. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. I had to check my notes to see what was coming next. I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I'd appreciate it very much. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. And if you become a patron or you send me money through Cash App, be sure to give me a mailing address. And I'll ship you out some stickers. I got a couple sticker packs left. I'll send out to the newest donators. And I think I might send like a patron pack to Gavin McInnes. Because I was thinking maybe I'll like take some. You remember I made those mix CDs like of songs back in the early 2000s? It was like Lead and In Excess. You remember that? It had Led Zeppelin, Nine Inch Nails, and In Excess on it. I want to send like those CDs to Gavin, have him trash them. He said, I listen to this crap. Plus I can send him stickers. Plus, like because I talked to Sean Goggins on the Twitters, I want to get my mom to write a note that says, Gavin, please be nicer to Sean. Sincerely, Rhoda Goggins. Like his mom wrote him a note, said be nicer to him. I was thinking about doing that, but so I don't know. That could be fun. I'm a little bit of a fanboy, so I enjoy that kind of stuff. Yeah. Also follow me on social media over there. Check out this. Sometimes AI spits out stuff, and I'm like, I don't like it, but I like that one. That's the thing about like AI is because I was never really good at art. The only thing I was good at is like line art or perspective drawing, like buildings. I can make a cityscape look real because of the 3 dimensions and so forth. I was good at that, but I was terrible. I'm good with words. I can feed words into AI now, and now it spits out stuff for me. Like those first images we made for the show, that was a lot of work. Now I'm just spitting out new stuff every week. Anyway, I have a question. Who is Jason Bateman, really? I was watching something on the Tubi, and I saw that you've seen those Bateman commercials where he's dressed up like Batman, but it's all these like Batman villains, and it's just being Jason Bateman, just a ineffective jerk. And my favorite one is when like Batman says to him, he's like, "Go home, Bateman. Start a podcast or something." That's hurtful, Jason Bateman. So I was wondering, who is Jason Bateman? I thought did a really good job in Arrested Development. I was like, oh, okay. It's an interesting role. I mean, I think like Jason Bateman up to that point, I think the most exposure I had to him was in Love Stinks, where he plays that actor in Love Stinks, and he's just the shallow, actor. I remember thinking maybe that actually is who Jason Bateman really is. And I think that's probably the case. Even though he did the role in Arrested Development, he also did very successfully in Ozark, where he playing like more intelligent type characters. But I think the real core of Jason Bateman is what's his name? Pepper something from Dodgeball. Do you have that picture? If Jason Bateman is a real person, the one character he played that I think is most accurate to who he is as a person, it's ESPN 8, the Ocho. It's that guy. I forget his name. Pepper something. You know, it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out for him. You know, and I think that is really who he is. One can argue that if you're unintelligent, you cannot play an intelligent character, and I disagree. I disagree. I've seen a lot of very dumb people pretending to be smart. All right. Case in point. And if anything, it just proves that he has skill as an actor. All right. If he really is this kind of brain dead, shallow idiot, and he could play characters like he does in Ozark and Arrested Development and other movies and so forth, it shows that he has skill as an actor. It doesn't mean that you're intelligent. And I'm just trying to come around to say that just because you have skill at acting does not mean you are intelligent. So don't listen to these people. Don't admire them. Don't look up to them. Just be entertained. Tip the dancing bear and move on with your life. And so when your favorite actor gets out there and says something, not that Jason Bateman's ever got out there and said something. It's just I've heard stories. I've heard stories about him. And I think I'm quite accurate. And so, but I mean, you shouldn't care what they think. So Robert De Niro comes out and he's like, F Trump. And it's like, I really like Casino. You can still like Casino and think that Robert De Niro's a douchebag. You know what I mean? I can enjoy Arrested Development or Ozark and still think that Jason Bateman is a douchebag. But if he is a douchebag, at least he has a sense of humor about himself. And that's what I like about those Bateman commercials that he did. Because he does have a sense of humor about himself. Especially when they go on, Bateman, do a podcast or something. That's hurtful. Because he did try that. And I don't know if you ever listened to it. You know, it's astounding to me. Like a guy like that could start a podcast and get millions of subscribers and be terrible at it. I think a few years ago, I was talking about Anna Faris. She was single again, and she's obviously very attractive. And I went and listened to her podcast. Oh, you're single? I'm going to go listen to your podcast. And it's Anna, what's her name? It's Unqualified? Yeah. Yeah. And it's a very accurate title because, wow, vacuous people. Actors are vacuous people. They're empty cups. They're empty cups. It's like, what's the character? Oh, Michael Bluth. You pour it in. That's the character. That's my character for today. Anyway, enough about him. Why? Have any of you thought about Jason Bateman this much? Justine Bateman, admittedly, I've thought way more about. Mostly at night. So I got a wedding coming up. Not my wedding. I get to go to a wedding, and it's someone very close to me, very good friend, and so I'm excited. But I was thinking about it. Well, I was thinking about Justine Bateman, and I got done with that, and I was trying to go to sleep, and I was thinking about my friend getting married, and I was thinking about that first dance, like after the wedding. It's got to be epic, right? You can't just go out there and do the Charleston or something like that. Or maybe you could. And you start like joining in. Like maybe you have like a reception that's a time machine themed. Maybe. And everyone, let's do the Charleston together. And everyone dresses up. That could be fun. You know. It would be better to do that than say like a Star Wars themed one. I think that's kind of lame, you know. Dress up as your favorite Star Wars character for our wedding. It's a wedding. It's not Comic-Con. So okay, all right. You convinced me. We shouldn't do it that way. All right, but I was thinking maybe like that first dance could be, maybe you could talk the missus into doing that last dance from Dirty Dancing. You know, not the dirty part. The last part with the lift and everything. The very last dance in Dirty Dancing. I bet you could talk the missus into doing that. But you got to do a lot of practicing. You'd probably get studio time. Go to the studio. Secretly. And you'd have to do it secretly because you don't want to ruin the surprise, right? It's like, oh, where are you off to? It's like, oh, I got to do this thing with this thing. It's a Thursday night 6 thing. Me and the missus, we meet up and just try to reconnect through all this chaos. It's like, well, we got to pick the menu. And we got to the bridesmaids outfits. And it's got to be done. Me and the missus got to reconnect in this way. And so you go and you practice your Dirty Dancing thing. Or if you know you don't want to rent a studio or something like that, you can practice something at home. Like you close the bedroom door at night and you watch that scene in Napoleon Dynamite where he's dancing, and you guys memorize it, you synchronize to it, and that's what you do for the first dance at your wedding. Or even better, what you do is you get like she's holding forks, he's holding spoons, like 2 spoons, and you guys do the Britney with knives dance, You synchronize that, you copy it verbatim, and that's stuff you could practice at home on your own. And then you do that at your wedding. And then there's going to be a bunch of old people. It's like, what's that? It's like, you remember when Britney with the knives? And I don't know what you're talking about. Like, okay. There'd even be people be like, Napoleon Dynamite? Is that I don't know, explosive? That Napoleon used in like 1800s or something like that? So I don't know. See, the only reason I'm not married is because I don't like dancing. And so I don't get to think about stuff like this very often. So when I think about, like, if I had a wedding, I'd try to talk the missus into do the Britney knives dance. Freak everybody out. But I like freaking people out. Because some people are like, what are you going to dress up for? It's Christmas. And I said, I want to be like a big giant teddy bear, right? With a little blue bow right on my ear, the right ear. And from like the sternum down on the costume is just red, drenched with blood. And I'm carrying a bloody knife. And I don't speak to anybody all throughout Halloween. And I remember I was describing this Halloween costume to somebody once, and they're just like, as I'm explaining it, they're like, that's always fun. I'm not going to dance at your wedding, dude. Just letting you know out there. All right. I got family in town. I think I mentioned this a couple times. But my uncle and I are hanging out. We're trading tracks. And I had the YouTube out, and he was like, hey, you ever heard this? And I'd type it into YouTube and pull it up, And I'd answer with the track. I was like, oh, you like that? Try this. And I'd throw them, something else. The bleachers. Modern girls in the modern girls. And it reminded me, because, this uncle and I, connected on music since we were kids, since I was a kid. He's always been an adult, as far as I know. So since we were kids, we'd sit there and we'd trade, talk music. And back in the day, it was mostly us sitting around by a stereo, taking a record out of the sleeve and putting it up on the turntable and say, you got to hear this. And he put the track on, and you sit there, you just jamming, you're sitting there in your living room or something like that. It's a rainy day or it's been snowing, and you're just sitting there listening to records all day, talking. You got the album covers out. You got an ashtray next to you. It's filled with stems and seeds. You got the album notes in front of you. You got the ounce of dirt weed you bought for $10 sitting there. And you fold it up, so you get the boom, you roll a bone. You fold it up, roll a bone. Sitting around all day doing that and listening to records. But it's so much easier these days. We just sit there, we'd have to go through the record collection, you got to hear this one. All right. And even when I was getting older, it was CDs and MP3s. It's just that the record albums were there. So we said, well, we're not going to play the record. So we'll just open it up and we'll use in the classic sense. And I was thinking after we had this thing where we're just talking about music from we're talking from the 40s, the 50s and 60s and 70s, up to the 90s. I hate the 90s. That's where the music just started going. And I kind of think how lucky we are, or I am, my generation is, to have experienced, like, growing up in the time, like 80s and 90s and so forth. I had access to, like, all the best music of the 20th century. And to be honest, it was like from like the end of the war to like 1990. There's some of the best, like 45 to 90, some of the best music ever made, you know, and I had access to all of it. And I think about future generations and the music that's coming out today, and like the music, the songs the chicks are going to want to dance to at their weddings are going to be terrible, because the music that's made these days is often terrible. Anyway, when was the last time you sat around and talked about music, you know? Do people even do that anymore? I don't know. Is EK out there or no? I'm going to have to switch a picture. I'm going to rant about cleaning equipment. Have you ever gotten mad at a mop? I frequently get mad at mops. And you could say it's a cliche and everything like that, but, you know, I was in the Navy. And in the Navy, we take our swabs very seriously. It's not mops. They're swabs, by the way. And I think that there's a lot of confusion. People don't understand there's a difference between a mop and a swab. You know, a mop is that thing that looks like two connected snuffleupagus eyelashes that you close into the thing on the stick. They're so terrible. They make me so mad. You know? And there's all those jokes, those Navy jokes. Hey, we're going to swap the decks together. We'll finger each other in the ass. Yo, we're gay sailors and we like mops. You know, I get it. I've heard all the jokes. I've been in the Navy. I get it. I knew Marines. But we take our swabbing very seriously. Because I don't know if you know anything about boats, but water always gets in. And so swabbing is a very important thing. And so when it comes to the kind of mops that you come across in any kind of cleaning supplies, most of the mops are terrible. And if I can get EK to pull up that picture, the real mop is a swab. It's like cotton around the bottom of the stick, wrapped around. It's 360 degrees, and it's a cotton swab. It's the kind of thing that you put a bucket of bleach over. Yes, I'm talking about mops. Do you think about mops this much? Do you think about Jason Bateman this much? I think about mops this much because when I have to mop something and it's not a good mop, it's not a good swab, I get very, very angry at the mop. I was in the Navy. I take this very seriously. You need to be able to spin the mop, distribute it, go back and forth. And sometimes you see people mopping and it's like, what are you doing? And some of those mops, those crappy mops that you see, the kind of mop that Stanley here is holding. All right, that's the irony of this movie, is that he loves this mop, but it's a shitty mop. It's not even a good mop. And because I was in the Navy, this is all very important and serious to me. And I hate getting mad at mops. Do you get mad at inanimate objects? I mean, everyone gets mad at their phone, right? Sooner or later, you're going to get mad at your phone. Even like if it's your fault, like if you drop it, you get, damn phone, even though you dropped it. Damn phone screen cracked. It's the case's fault. The case didn't hold up. But, you know, when I have to mop, it's like, Matt, I know what you're thinking. Madman, you're 48 years old. What are you doing still mopping things? It was like, you serious? I think that was the point of it when I was in the Navy. If you cannot do a simple job like mopping, swabbing, getting water off the ground, if you can't do that well, how are you going to do anything more advanced well? And that's the point of doing things well. Anything worth your time and effort is worth doing well. And that's the point of taking it seriously when it comes to mopping. And when it comes to mopping or swabbing, you need a good friggin' mop. You need good tools for whatever it is that you're doing. And when it comes to a simple task like mopping something up, you need The single most important tool you need is a good swab. Ask a sailor next time you need to go buy a mop, you ask a sailor what kind of mop. You ask him to go with you. And if you're going to any place other than like Home Depot, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? Walmart doesn't carry mops anymore. They carry those crappy clip ones that just end up smearing water everywhere, and you just hope it dries fast enough. You ever think about mops that much? I'm sorry. That was a rant that's been weighing on me. That's the kind of thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night. That freaking mop. And, work, like even the simple, most basic tasks, is always rewarding. It's easy for me to say that, the most rewarding part of my job is I can create this show on this channel and so forth. You could say that. But at the end of the day, I like cleaning stuff up. I like cooking. I like cleaning. It gives you a sense of satisfaction on like a daily level, a sense of satisfaction that you have accomplished something. It's the same thing when I work in construction. When I come into a house, we're hanging sheetrock. You come into a house, it's just all frame, and then you hang sheetrock for a day or two. Now it looks more like a home. You felt like you accomplished something. And when I'm just sitting here spitting stuff out on the internet with all 228 subscribers, did I really accomplish something? I guess so. I got a big list of videos of all that I've created here. But it's not as satisfying as being a simple man with a simple job and wanting to do it well. Because sometimes, the mop isn't enough. Sometimes the mop isn't enough. Sometimes you got to get down on the ground with like a toothbrush. You gotta brush it. You gotta brush it. And that's not enough. That's not enough. And you gotta stand up. You gotta stand up. You gotta shout out, "Hey, these floors are dirty as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore." All right, let's talk about a movie, and then we'll get into the news worth knowing. I was so hopeful for this movie. If EK can change the thingy again. I watched a 2020 movie called 13 Demons, You Play, You Die. And I had such high hopes for it. Exhilarating, This Ain't No Dungeons and Dragons, Extreme DVD. What does that even mean? What does it even mean? Yeah, it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's not like that at all. I think the guys who did it probably played a lot of D&D, and they didn't want to pay for the copyrights. And those, Wizards of the Coast, they're crazy like that. But this movie is about this group of guys, a bunch of gamers, stoner gamers. It's interchangeable, I suppose. But I mean, it's a couple of gamers, and he's like, "Oh, I found this old man so-and-so was selling all the stuff in his shop, and he had this in his closet. It's this banned game called 13 Demons. Remember back in the 70s, it was a board game, and it got banned. There were some deaths involved, and the game got burned and banned and stuff like that. And they're like, "Well, why do you want to play this?" Where they got real other games that they're playing, like video games and stuff. There's tons of games, tons of choices. Like, yeah, but it's old and it's banned. Don't you want to play it? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. So they decide to play this game, and it's kind of cool the way they reveal the game, and they like start explaining like the idea behind it. And as they reveal stuff, the packaging and stuff like that, it all smells real funny, and they're like, ugh, smells funny, ugh. And they got this big thick rule book, and they got the game board and their pieces and so forth, and so they start explaining the rules, and it shows them sitting at the table about to play this game, and they're smoking bowls and try to explain the rules. And you're like, okay, this is a kind of a stoner movie. And all of a sudden you realize, the pacing is not going to increase at all. In fact, the pacing is going to slow to a crawl. And you're like, oh boy, this movie's getting terrible. Anyway, so they keep playing this game until they get to a point where they like encounter their demon squares. They get to the square that has their demons. And then the game actually like slows down and like everyone kind of falls asleep. And the guy who landed on his demon square or spot, he has this weird dream, and the effects of the dream, the cinematography, it's some of the saddest modern special effects I've ever seen in a film. That's from 2020. If I saw effects like that in the 70s, I would have been like, wow, that's terrible. And they wake up from this weird dream, and they like on the news, there's like somebody's been murdered and stuff like that, and they got little crosses, upside down crosses, like that's on the cover of the game, 13 Demons. And there's been some deaths in town. And then you got like the police. First of all, the movie has a great hook with like these guys who are caught by the cops, and they're talking like they're in character the whole time. I am so-and-so from the north, and I'm, And there's a lot of gamer jargon in it. The dialogue is kind of good in that regard. It sounds like a lot of, realistic gamer jargon. It sounds like, oh, maybe there's some thought put behind all of this game. But then, okay, now another one hits his demon space, and they're playing the game for a really long time. And another one hits his space, and he falls asleep, and then more deaths occur in town. And you imagine where it's going. And so all of a sudden, they're getting very serious about the game, and like holding each other to account. It's like, you're not taking these rules seriously and stuff like that. They start getting way into it. And I don't want to spoil the ending because there isn't one. And that's why this movie's terrible. It was a decent concept that just ground to a halt. I think even with a better budget, it wouldn't be much better because of the ending. You need an ending. There's no ending. Basically, there's only 2 acts in this movie, the first and the second act. And you're like trying to scroll past the credits. Is there an end screen where they resolve this movie? 13 Demons, You Play, You Die, 2020 movie. 2 of 13 stars. Do not waste your time as I did. Get out now. All right, let's get into the news worth knowing. All right. Congressman whose D.C. apartment complex was robbed blasts Democrats for criticizing Trump crime crackdown. As you know, there's been stuff going on in D.C. Like I said last week, I'm all about law and order. Let's get that going again. I remember when D.C. used to be a pretty place. And even then, back when I think fondly of it, like the first time I went to D.C., I was probably 93. Even then, I thought it was beautiful, but a little dirty and crime-ridden, a little too homelessy. And so I'm glad that, stuff is getting done in that regard. So let's hear this story here. Congressman Wesley Hunt, Republican from Texas, blasted Democrats and members of the media who have been critical of President Donald Trump sending in the National Guard to the streets of Washington, D.C. in an effort to curb the rampant crime plaguing the city. Hunt also revealed that his own D.C. apartment complex in the Navy Yard area, when we talked about that last week too, nice neighborhood, Navy Yard, was broken into last year, leaving a front desk attendant robbed of her belongings just several floors away from the congressman's own unit. Yeah, female security guard? Okay. Front desk attendant, okay. That's different. Downstairs in my apartment complex, there's a woman who was robbed. Hunt told Fox News Digital she had her computer stolen, her phone stolen, her iPad stolen, right behind the desk, and we were all blocks away from the Capitol. It's a 3-minute drive away from the Capitol when it happened, Hunt added. Across the street from our complex was Henry Queller, was robbed at gunpoint. I hope I got that name right. I don't understand what these critics are talking about. It's not safe. Trump's military intervention to combat crime in D.C. has been widely criticized by Democrats, and House Judiciary Ranking Member Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, introducing a resolution last week to prevent the president from keeping service members in the district. But because Washington, D.C. is not a state, Trump was able to invoke Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, allowing him to declare a public emergency and deploy federal resources into the area. Is this a quote from Trump? Okay. Just like I took care of the border where you had 0 illegals coming in last month from millions the year before, I would take care of our cherished capital. It will make it truly great again. He stated in an August 11th White House fact sheet on the emergency declaration. Before the tense, squalor, filthy crime, it was the most beautiful capital in the world. Everyone always said it was the most beautiful capital in the world. It will soon be that again. I hear he hates when people do his voice. That just makes me want to do it all the more. Hunt also noted the actions of several Democrat governors who used their respective states' National Guard to combat various issues. Quote, Tim Walz, the National Guard implemented COVID restrictions on people, not to take care of the commercial capital of the United States, Hunt told Fox. Gavin Newsom is willing to clean up downtown L.A. for the president of China to come visit, but you won't clean it up just for everyday citizens when all this crime is happening. It's a hell of a point. We don't have to read any more of this article. So, yeah, I mean, if you've been to D.C., if you live in D.C., you can't lie to yourself about how it is, right? You got to be serious about these laws, you know? And like I said last week, I mean, these homeless people, don't you want to help them? Don't you help them get off the junk, get clean? Or you just want to leave them there to die? Anyway, let's go on to this next story. DHS pulls funding from groups with, quote, alleged terrorist ties after watchdog report. First on Fox, the Department of Homeland Security is reviewing federal security grants for Muslim groups with, quote, alleged terrorist ties after a new report linked past funding to extremist organizations. According to a DHS document obtained by Fox News Digital, 49 projects with alleged affiliations to terrorist activities have already been canceled, a move the department estimates will save $8 million. The review primarily targets funding distributed through FEMA's nonprofit security grant program, NSGP, which provides aid to churches, mosques, synagogues, and other faith-based institutions facing threats of hate-driven violence. The probe follows a report by the Middle East Forum, a pro-Israel conservative think tank, which claimed that more than $25 million in DHS and FEMA grants went to terror-linked groups between 2013 and 2023. DHS officials said the department is conducting its own independent review of funding, but added, we take the results of MEF report very seriously and are thankful for the work of conservative watchdog groups. The report flagged a $100,000 grant in 2019 to the Dar al-Hijra Mosque in Virginia, which Customs and Border Protection once described as a mosque operating as a front for Hamas operatives in the U.S., according to records obtained by the investigative project through the Freedom of Information Act. Oh, my God. You know how much that pisses me off? Some of my tax dollars went to these Muslims. You know, I can't believe that. This is what drain the swamp, for God's sakes, by all means. What a mess. It pisses me off that my tax dollars went to some of this. It pisses me off that some of my tax dollars went to go fund public broadcasting and NPR, which are just liberal propaganda stations. My tax dollars going to pay for that. Anyway, these programs, man, it's like, you know, when you get a government job, you kind of like have to justify, it's like, well, what am I doing today? Well, I could not do anything, let the law be as it is. No, you constantly want to justify your job and create something. And it's like, we need to help these people because of hate crimes. Anyway, let's go on to this next story. All right. So obviously everyone's been talking about Trump and Putin meeting. And Trump and Putin. And if you remember when they met, Trump had a flyover, had a couple of, what were they, B-2s fly over. Just as a, flashing a gun. You're walking down the street, the other gang's across the street, you pull up your shirt, show you got a pistol. That kind of thing. But let's go to the next news story because these are obviously big players on the block, you know what I'm saying, Donald Trump and Putin. So this story is NATO scrambles warplanes as Russia hits near Romanian border in Ukraine. Russia strikes in Ukraine hit less than a mile from the NATO border. 2 German warplanes were scrambled overnight from Romania to Russia, launched a large-scale missile and drone attack in Ukraine less than a mile from the NATO borderline. Romania's Ministry of Defense said on Wednesday that 2 German Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft stationed in Romania's Mihail Cogla-Chisinau airport. I am sorry, Romania. Those are tough words. air base as part of NATO's enhanced air policing mission were deployed to monitor the air situation, but noted that at this time no Russian aircraft or projectiles crossed the NATO border. By the time they scrambled, the Russian planes were already gone, I bet. Despite last week's talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Donald Trump, Moscow has continued its aerial bombardment of Ukraine, including an overnight targeted oil and port facilities in the Odessa region on and near the Danube River, which separates the Ukrainian border and the allied NATO nation of Romania. The deployment of NATO jets comes after numerous incidents in recent weeks have increasingly threatened and even crossed NATO borders as the U.S. and Europe continue to push Russia to end the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported early on Wednesday that more than 60 drones and ballistic missiles were fired across Ukraine overnight, including the northeastern region of Sumy, where drone strikes injured 14 people, although Ukraine's Air Force later increased the number of overnight drone strikes to 93 and noted that 62 of the Shahed-style drones were intercepted, as well as one ballistic missile. And he's talking about the dead, Zelensky. So when Trump flashes the B-2s, over Vladimir Putin, this is how Putin responds. He's like, I'm going to hit a legitimate military target as close to the NATO border as I possibly can, because that is far more threatening than just flashing your piece. You know what I'm saying? Just flashing your gun is not the same as firing into the dirt, firing in the air. You shouldn't fire in the air. Fire into the dirt. So this is high stakes poker that these guys are playing, and lives hang in the balance. I mean, I know I've said before, I think Russia's going to get it, and I think I think Trump knows that, and I think if he slowly feeds Vladimir Putin Ukraine, because why would we care? Right. So you slowly feed it to Putin, and you can get to some concessions out of Putin, by all means. I understand what NATO is concerned about. They're concerned about the fact that Russians, in every governmental iteration of Russians, have been territorial expansionists. They see their destiny as probably taking over the world, and they believe that they're the rightest people ever, and they've always been expansionist, and trying to contain them is, been a tough job for the rest of the world for a long, long time. And I don't know how you answer that. I don't know how you answer that. And that's what NATO is concerned about. This is what NATO was formed for, is because they're concerned about Russia's territorial expansion after the war. After all, it's like Europe got carved up after the war, the Second World War, to the point where they put a wall straight through the middle of Berlin. You know what I mean? And Europeans fear that again. And as well they should. Because they show up, and one of the foreign ministers is wearing a CCCP t-shirt, which is awesome. I mean, if you're Russian, wouldn't you have one of those? But, make no mistake, these are who these people are. Vladimir Putin misses the old Soviet Union. And he sees himself as a czar. It's a dangerous game. I have solutions, but I don't think anyone's going to ask me. But and plus, I don't think U.S. military has the guts to go through with what needs to be done to make the world truly a safe place. I have my own supervillain plans. I'll never divulge them here. Anyway, you can say they're supervillain plans, but there really are superhero plans. I'm trying to make the world a better place. Anyway, let's go on to this next story. I remember I was talking last week about when chicks go after each other, it's like it's all fur and claws. The View co-host Anna Navarro rips Melania Trump's Putin letter as so hypocritical you can't believe it. All right, so The View co-host Anna Navarro derided First Lady Melania Trump's peace letter to Russian President Vladimir Putin as something that falls under the category of stuff that's so hypocritical you can't believe it on Tuesday. In an Instagram video, Navarro recounts part of the First Lady's letter that was delivered to Putin during Friday's summit with President Donald Trump in Alaska. In the letter, the First Lady urged Putin to end his war against Ukraine on behalf of the children. Mr. Putin, you can single-handedly restore their melodic laughter, the First Lady wrote. In protecting the innocence of these children, you'll do more than serve Russia alone. You'll serve humanity itself. and I don't know if you, we'll talk about Navarro's response here in a second, but I don't know if you read what Melania Trump wrote to Vladimir Putin, but like I was just saying, Russia and people like Vladimir Putin is a very masculine society. See, they haven't fallen into the bullshit that we here in the West have done, where, oh, gee, I'm a guy, I shouldn't be thinking stuff or doing stuff without asking a woman. That's how we are in the West. But Vladimir Putin, he gets this letter and he's like, what is this? You read it to me. And his aide, another man, is sitting there. He opens it up and he goes, it's from Melania Trump, sir. Let's see, you, the children, and the puppy dogs and rainbows. We don't need to read that, right, comrade? Ah. You know what I mean? And so when I read Melania Trump's letter to Putin, I was like, God, I hope that was her idea and her idea alone. You think, imagine Trump sitting there, but you know what you should do? You should write him a puppy dogs and rainbows letter. That way, because I can do it. If I did it, he'd be like, that guy's a pussy. He cares about puppy dogs and rainbows. Anyway, Anna Navarro said, think about what her husband, what Donald Trump is doing to the children of immigrants in America and to U.S. citizen children of immigrants. How many of these children are living with fear of their parents being dragged through the streets of America, their car windows smashed in, their parents beaten by masked men and disappeared? She added, how are children all over the world who are not receiving U.S. aid, all over the world who are not receiving U.S. aid because her husband's government decided we shouldn't be feeding starving children all over the world? How about those kids? Why is that our responsibility? Anyway, that mop thing really put me in a bad mood. I'm going to skip the story. We're going to move on. Wow. And I was yelling there, and I got a flash of mops in my head. I'm like, freaking mops. Yeah. But, I mean, it's such a nonsensical letter, and so she had to go on a rant about it, because Trump sounds bad. You know, I get it. You know, but, you know, they just can't leave each other alone. You know, they just, monsters. There's a little delay. When I look down, then I still see me doing this. It happened again. I'm going to stop doing that. Okay. Let's go on these two happier stories, and then we are done for the week. And you know, our last two stories of the show are always pretty upbeat and happy, and they make me laugh. But today, these ones, firefighters cut open playground slide to rescue a 40-year-old man stuck inside. Emergency responders provided oxygen to a man in extreme discomfort during a hot August day. You remember that scene in Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they try to find Frank and they find him in the playground and he's just in his underwear and he's stuck in the monkey bar? It's like, and no one ever asks how he got there, or he never explains how he got into that predicament, you know, stuff like that. But as soon as I read this story, I thought about that and I was like, this is great. So a Connecticut man from where I was born has been saved from a slippery situation. You and the puns. An unidentified 40-year-old man, please don't tell them my name, got himself stuck inside a tube slide at an elementary school playground in Vernon, Connecticut on August 16th. Just after 4 p.m., the town of Vernon Fire Department, Vernon EMS, and Vernon Police Department responded and were dispatched to the Northeast Elementary School, according to a Facebook post by the fire department. Please don't tell them my name. The first units that arrived found the man wedged head first into the middle portion of the slide. Additional help was requested, including fire truck, Rescue 141, and Tower 541. The man was provided ventilation and oxygen via EMS because he was reportedly in extreme discomfort in the hot summer temperatures. Quote, as Rescue 141 was deploying tools for extraction, Tower 541 set up adjacent to the playground on the grass and used the aerial ladder as a high point to stabilize a section of slide for the firefighters removing to reach the patient. The firefighters were removing to reach the patient, they said on Facebook. Within 30 minutes, the man is freed, and the responders were able to remove the lower section of the slide, splitting it in two. Oh, he ruined the slide. He refused treatment and transportation to the emergency room. He just ran. Don't look at my face! And ran. While all this was a unique call for service from the fire department, the professionalism shown on scene was exemplary. The Vernon Fire Department reflected in a Facebook post, which has received viral attention from the public. One user commented, new fear unlocked. Kudos to the man for being active with his kids and teaching me a valuable lesson about tube slides. Wait a minute. Do you think he was with his kids playing on the slide and then he got stuck in the slide and he's like, kids, go get help, and they left and they forgot about it or something? Is that what you think happened? I hope that's not what happened. Imagine getting stuck. That's another quote. And then they do a whole photo shoot of it for you. Poor guy. Another one comment. Look, after I read the story and I thought about it for a little bit, all I have to say is, why don't you make them adult-sized? Why can't the slides be adult-sized? Sometimes when I'm down and I look up at it like a big twirly slide and the kids are going down and they look like they're having fun, I want to get on one. I want to get on a slide. I thought about that scene in Pineapple Express where Saul was sitting there eating that big burger and crying by the playground and the little girl's looking at him. Rough scene. But I've been there. I've been in sad eating a big giant burger next to a playground. Isn't that how you do it? It's like the best place to eat a cheeseburger. I'm eating there and I'm looking at it and I'm sad and I'm crying and I eat my cheeseburger and I look up at that big slide and I was like, you know what would cheer me up? Getting in that slide. Riding that slide. Whee! Whee! But no. We're adults. We're not allowed. Let's go to this last story. This is great because I don't care about any of it, but I find it's hilarious because of the way people react to it. Would you donate pets for a zoo to feed to its predators? Some say yes. European facility says whole prey animals help imitate natural food chain for 12,000 animals, including big cats. They want to make the experience a little more genuine for the creatures in the zoo. A little more humane, make their lives a little more humane by feeding them your pets. A European zoo is asking for donations of healthy pets to feed to its predators as part of a controversial policy that has sparked international outrage. Quote, did you know that you could donate smaller pets to the Aalborg Zoo? The Denmark Zoo posted on social media last month. If you have a healthy animal that needs to be removed for various reasons, you are welcome to donate to us. It continued. The zoo, located in the northern city of Aalborg, said in a Facebook and Instagram posts that chickens, rabbits, and guinea pigs are an important part of the diet of some predators, especially the European lynx. The wild cat needs whole prey that resembles what it would naturally hunt in the wild, so it won't eat unless it has live live prey. Oh my God! On the website, below a picture of a tiger tearing into a furry animal. Aalborg Zoo explains that it accepts animal donations from individuals and businesses for euthanasia and slaughter because the predators need whole animals, including fur, bones, and organs, rather than butchered meat. In zoos, we have a responsibility to imitate the animal's natural food chain for the sake of both animal welfare and professional integrity. The zoo, which houses about 1,200 animals and research in a research and conservation center, said in the post. The zoo accepts no more than 4 small pets at a time, so you have a limit. Why? Rabbit breeders, yeah. Because you think you could donate like rabbits. If you donate like, I have a ton of rabbits. I can have them like popping them out left and right. And I take them over there to the zoo. Probably get a thing so I can deduct something from my taxes, right? For donation and stuff like that. You think that's what the limit's about? Anyway. According to its website, and under certain conditions, also takes horses. Send your horses to the zoo. Let them chop them up and eat your horses. That's how we do. That's how we feed them all. That's how we do it. We can feed all the zoo animals. All you have to do is kill all the horses. Hold on. Donors are not paid, though the zoo says contributions are tax deductible. There it is. That's why there's a limit. The practice drew swift criticism, and the zoo later disabled the comments on the post, citing hateful and malicious rhetoric. How disgusting, one woman commented on Facebook, having your healthy pet killed. Feeding pets is absolutely unacceptable. Feeding pets is absolutely unacceptable, wrote someone else. Did you hear that sentence? Feeding pets is absolutely unacceptable. Don't feed your pets. That's wrong. How is putting a dead pet on a plate for a caged animal anything close to a reenactment of nature? No, you see, they give them to them live. The People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, said in a post on his website, there's nothing natural about feeding companion animals to predators. No. You see, that's more natural than having pets. You know what I'm saying? That's what guinea pigs are for. Feeding other things. That's like what rabbits are for. Feeding other things. Quote, it's not natural behavior for predators from Asia who roam and hunt for their meals to be fed companion animals who originated in South America. The anti-zoo animal rights group argued. Guinea pigs, for example, are native to Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, and other parts of Colombia. So what? So what? You have a friend who has a snake? What do you think he feeds a snake? Mice. Where does he get the mice? He buys the mice. You know what other people buy mice for? They buy them as pets. Some people buy them for snakes. Some people buy them for pets. It's just a natural way of things. I'm sorry. You want to save the zoo animals, or do you want to save the cute little guinea pigs that the kid doesn't take care of anymore? My guinea pig died of wet tail. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a very horrible way for my guinea pig to die, and I'm ashamed, and that's why I'll never have another guinea pig again. I would rather have fed him to take him personally to a zoo and fed him to like a cheetah or something. It would have been a lot easier on him. It would have been a lot more entertaining for me and the cheetah. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I'd very much appreciate it. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. You can also follow me on social media over here at DNALETSAW on the Twitters. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter, or at SLRobbins13 on the Instagrams. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you. And you got the intern has an intern? You closing it out? Something was supposed to happen here.